are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
Were the Oklahoma Sooners overhyped going into the 2024 season? I don't think so. Let's talk about it here on the Sooner Spotlight. Welcome in, Sooner Nation, to another episode of Sooner Spotlight, your all-access pass for all things Oklahoma Sooners athletics. I'm your host, Josh Mahler. You can find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, over at RealJoshMahler. Find me over there for all updates on the show and so much more. Again, just a reminder to everybody, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Let's go ahead and get into it. Are the Oklahoma Sooners overhyped, or were they overhyped going into the 2024 season? I don't think so. I think all of the hype coming into this season was well-deserved. And the reason why I say that is because you look at this team and this roster and what we know what they were capable of going into the season, I think they're just fine. First off, let's start off with Jackson Arnold. Of course, receiving most of the hype, going into this season. Also, most of the criticism going into this season. I think between Jackson Arnold and the offensive line, which we'll get to, that's where you find most of the criticism / maybe overhype going into this football season. But with Jackson Arnold, I don't think he was overhyped at all. He was a 5-star recruit coming out of high school. We saw what he was capable of in high school, and we know that he's got a very high ceiling. So I think us, meaning media, just as a whole, and specifically Oklahoma media, I don't think that we overhyped this guy. He's shown to be just fine, and he's had those little glimmers of hope that he's given us, those small glimpses of what he's able to do with the really good pass as he's getting hit to Jalil Farouk across the middle, being able to find guys really quick on an RPO read, when he does make those fast reads. Can he improve? Should he improve? Yes, 100%. I think if he keeps on going down the road that he's going down right now, he hasn't shown to be living up to the hype. But overall, the dude has thrown over 60% so far this season. And if he were to keep on the same trajectory that he has so far through 2 games, do you guys realize he would have 36 touchdowns and 6 interceptions at the end of the season? I wouldn't complain with that one bit. I understand he only threw for 2 interceptions against Houston, and they weren't able to move the ball at all in the second half. So yes, that's very alarming, and this offense has a lot they need to piece together. But Jackson Arnold and all of the criticism towards him, quite unfair overall. I think he does need to improve. I think he does have room for improvement. I think that there's certain things like the time that he's spending, making his reads, and then also not feeling comfortable in the pocket. Yes, he can improve on all of that, but is all of that his fault? I don't think it is. I do think that he's very hesitant to go downfield. There's been several times where there's an open receiver downfield that he doesn't end up taking, and I don't think that it's that he can't complete that pass. It's that he sees it and doesn't feel comfortable making that risk. And that's something that we need Jackson Arnold to do. Just let it rip. I don't think that he was overhyped going into this season because we knew what he was capable of, and we knew that he would be capable of making good plays. I don't think that's fair to criticize him as much as he's been criticized so far. And we're absolutely not going to put in a backup quarterback, especially this early in the season. And really, I don't think it's necessary unless he starts throwing interceptions all over the place. I don't see a reason to put in a backup quarterback such as Michael Hawkins. I don't like the idea, so stop bringing it up. I don't like it, not at all. Jackson Arnold is still my guy. That's still my quarterback. That's who I'm sticking with throughout the entirety of this season. The yardage, that will go up as the season goes on. So don't worry. It's been a very vanilla offense, and I do think that this week we're going to see a huge improvement going into this week. Man, I'm hoping for 35-plus points. That's what I'm really hoping for. I'll get to that more on the pregame show. But if you go back and watch former Georgia quarterback Aaron Murray, he released a video where I think he did a very good job. He's a former starting quarterback for Georgia, so remember that, and a very good one at that. he does a very great breakdown of Jackson Arnold in that Houston game and breaks down a lot of plays. And I think the cause for him doing that was because he heard all of the hype around Jackson Arnold, maybe more of the criticism around him. And he shows down and shows how he's making certain reads and where he's finding certain guys. And there was a lot of good to come from what we saw from Jackson Arnold when you really look at his play. So overall, Jackson Arnold, I don't think he was overhyped at all. He does have room for improvement, but I don't think we can put all of that on him. I do think he's reluctant, and I think he's very nervous in the pocket. But again, not totally his fault, and sometimes not trusting and not really having that chemistry. Let's go ahead and get into that chemistry. Let's jump to the wide receiver depth. One of the biggest things that I think, myself included, media was hyping up around this Oklahoma offense was that wide receiver core. Josh, you said that this wide receiver core was the deepest it has been. You compared it to an Ohio State receiving core. Yeah, I did. And I believe it. When I look at the talent that we have on that wide receiving core and how deep it is, it is even going down to the freshmen, and what they will be capable of. But let me back up. What I was hyping up and what I think most Oklahoma media was hyping up when it came to this wide receiver core was all of the guys that it was supposed to have in it. Starting off, we thought Jaden Gibson would be a third-string wide receiver who we were extremely excited about seeing out there. He got injured and is out for the season. Going on to Jalil Farouk. A lot of hype around him coming back. We know what he's capable of. We've seen it out on the field. We saw the high IQ play, going back one that comes to mind, a high IQ play of getting out of bounds, perfect timing when the ball was thrown to him against Texas to march down the field for that game-winning drive. Jalil Farouk is a very good player, very smart player, very well capable of doing what we need here in Oklahoma too. So, yeah, I think Jalil Farouk, another one, now out for most likely the season. Andrell Anthony, this is one that early in the season and preseason, we thought for sure by the time the season rolls around, he's going to be completely healthy. We thought for sure he'd be 100%, and it really seemed like he would be ready by the time the season began. But it ends up he's not, and it's just one of those things. I would much rather them take a long time on that recovery and make sure that he is 100% before sending him out there. And with what he had wrong with him, I'm really glad that they're attending to him the way they have. But maybe they're holding back on him too because of the other injuries that we've seen specifically in that wide receiver room. So overall, Andrell Anthony, another guy that we thought would be out there. And one more, we've got Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson is a guy that up until the week of the first game, he was going to be out on the field. We know what Nick Anderson's capable of. We know the improvement that he's made in the offseason, but he wasn't out there the first two games. He's expected to be in this week, and I really hope he is, just for the sake of trying to find something to build upon and being able to find someone that we can find that chemistry with. But he's not out there. So that's 4 of your top receivers. So I would say you have 5 top receivers that we were looking forward to this season, and 4 of them are out. So the wide receiver room depth, that was not a lie, and it wasn't overhyped. It was hyped properly because the talent with these guys is absolutely insane. But when we look at the injuries, you can't predict injuries, and you really can't plan around it either. You have to plan for your guys being out on the field. And you know what? If your guys aren't on the field, then you start to plan around. And you know what? The backups, usually you expect to go to those backup guys maybe by week 4, week 5 when you start to get those injuries, not going into game 1 of the season. So it's been very rough. And so let's go to the guys that we're left with on that wide receiver core. We've got Deion Burks. We've seen what he's capable of, and I don't think he's getting the ball enough. If there's one criticism of this offense, I don't think they're feeding him the ball. I would love to see him get the ball, 12 times at a minimum. But I think with the wide receiver injuries and the injury bug that we've seen going around the team, it's probably not a bad idea not to be giving him the ball so much so he doesn't get injured, because we do need Deion Burks. He is a key receiver for us. He's made some key mistakes too. I think that interception that Jackson Arnold threw personally, I think I put that a little bit more on Deion Burks than Jackson Arnold. I don't know that it would have been completed, but I truly feel like he can't change up his direction of path after the ball's already placed where he's projected to be and where he started off to be. And he, at the very least, you have got to go and play defense. If it was going to be picked off, play defense for your quarterback. Give yourselves another chance. So, you know what? Getting off of that tangent, Deion Burks, I do think he needs to get the ball more. And we know that the chemistry is there between him and Jackson Arnold. He's still out on the field. Really great to see that. Going on, we've got Brendan Thompson. Brendan Thompson, we were told that he would have a lot, he would look a lot better when running routes this season, that he's not just that over-the-top guy, that he's going to have these routes that are going to be able to shake defenders. We haven't seen the separation from him too much. We saw it a little bit at Houston, in the Houston game, but we didn't see it a ton. And, that's one thing that I really want to see more from him, and I think he will keep on progressing as the season goes on. But we need to see more from Brendan Thompson, and we need to see him get the ball a little bit more as well. So I think that's another guy that we can expect to see have the ball in his hands a little bit more. But you know what? Again, I just want to see more chemistry, specifically with these two receivers, Deion Burks and Brendan Thompson with Jackson Arnold. Going on, we've got J.J. Hester. This is a guy that came over. I believe he's a senior. He came over from Missouri. And we heard a lot of good things from Brent Venables and the other the other coaches on the coaching staff about how much he's improved in the offseason and how much it seems that he's really fitting in with this team. But we only saw a few drops from him in week 1 against Temple. That's all that we've really seen from J.J. Hester. So where is he going to fit in? When is he going to fit in? What is he good at? And where can we put him in the play scheme, especially with these injuries around when we really need him? So, that's one guy. Now I'll list off all of these guys in a group. We've got Zion Carney. We've got Jacques Petaway. Also, Ivan Carrion. And then we've also got Zion Reagans, who all of these guys are all very young, freshmen, sophomores that haven't seen the field in playtime. And they've only gotten a little bit of a taste of that in game 1 and 2. So, these are young guys that we know are going to be very skilled and they're going to be very good as time goes on. But we weren't preparing to put them in game 1. And that's what we had to do with a lot of these guys. Game 1, hey, wide receiver depth, it's there, but the injury bug caught us, and we need to throw you in. They weren't ready to play game 1. And that's totally understandable for a young guy. And so for these guys, I think these are our 4 receivers that we've got that we list off as depth because, hey, if we have to, and we have to drop down to them by game 5, game 6, I feel like we can rely on these guys and maybe slip them into the playbook somewhere where they're kind of a secret weapon, but we weren't expecting them to be that key receiver game 1 where they're now second or third string. You've got 4 guys out of your top 5 receivers that aren't healthy, and man, that's just something that you can't plan around and you can't really prepare for. So, I mean, that's really tough. Going on to the O-line, this is, again, another one that I think was the most criticism. We do have inexperience as a group up front, and we were always willing to admit that, but we've got a great offensive line coach who we thought would be able to get them to mesh and kind of gel together very early in week 1, and we didn't see that. The offensive line needs work, and you know what? I've been patient with them, and man, I don't really know where to go anymore. On top of that, the injury bug. Again, another position group on the offense that has been attacked with injuries. We've got Garion Hatchett now out for the season with a surgery on his bicep, and then we've also got Branson Hickman kind of in and out and very questionable. We don't know if he's going to be in and with that knee injury, and he's really only played 10 snaps this season so far, and we really need him in. Now having to rely on your third string center to come into the game, it's one of those things you just can't plan around having to shift guys around, and we were shifting these guys around throughout fall camp just to try to get them in a place that fits. And when you find a place that fits for them and the way that it's going to work as far as chemistry going forward, all of a sudden you get these injuries and it all falls apart. And playing left guard going over to right guard is a pretty big adjustment. understanding the different shifts, the different movements that you've got to have, the different, side of the field that you've got to be able to know certain players and where to call them out. There's a lot that goes into that. I don't know a ton about what it goes into being an offensive lineman. As you can see, I'm a pretty small guy, but I do know that much, that it's been told to me that it's very difficult to move around on the offensive line, specifically into that center position. That is one that I can understand why and how it would be very crucial and very difficult to transition to. So overall, I mean, it's been very difficult with the injury bug. So just based on that, for the offense, I don't think Oklahoma was overhyped at all. A big part of that being the injury bug, being the injuries that have come on this team in just a mass amount, it feels like. And yes, we do have depth, but a lot of times you have those twos that are supposed to be twos, and you are kind of preparing for them and preparing them to be twos, to be in place for that one. But then all of a sudden you're putting a 3 in for a 1 to jump into that place. And in some cases, like in the wide receiver room, you're putting a 5 or a 6 or a 7 to go and play that one spot. So I don't think it was overhyped. I just think that we saw what we had and assuming that everyone would be healthy, and they just aren't. So hopefully we can get guys healthy. Hopefully, if we're not getting guys healthy, hopefully we can find ways to build that chemistry really quick. And it is a sense of panic for Oklahoma fans because we know that Tennessee is coming into town very soon. So we are trying to get that put together, and we hope that it is put together in time, but it just isn't right now. Definitely something that we want to see improve before going forward. But let's jump over to the defense. Was the defense overhyped? I don't think so, not one bit. Have you seen this defense play? I think just about everyone in the nation has seen Oklahoma's defense and said, yeah, that's a team that's going to be hard to beat because of their defense. Even if their offense isn't clicking, that defense is going to be hard to get through. Overall, so far through 2 games, they've only allowed 1 touchdown, and really that was off of kind of a broken play right after a pass interference call that should not have been called, in my opinion. So Woody Washington gets a pass interference called on him. There's a little bit of a frustration, and I think that frustration, in my opinion, I haven't heard this from the coaching staff or even from the players, but in my opinion, it felt like maybe that frustration bled over into the next play, causing confusion over on the defense and miscommunication, led up a 44-yard touchdown. So that was the only touchdown that this defense has allowed. They have scored off of, I guess not really defensively, but the special teams scored off of a turnover with that scoop and score. And then, I believe it was Lewis Carter, if memory serves me correctly, that punches it out. And Jaron Kanik picks it up for a scoop and score. Game 1 against Temple. And then game 2, you have a safety. So overall, this defense, I mean, you can't say they were overhyped. I think they were properly hyped. I think we were excited about this. And because of the defense, and again, one more stat to kind of throw out there, they've got a 100% success rate in stopping teams in the red zone. They've only allowed 2 field goals against Houston in the red zone. So when the other offense was put into the red zone, the defense held. The defense didn't allow them into the end zone. So that's something to look at and understand that this defense is the key part, the key component of this team right now. And so that's what we have to look forward to. But the reason why I say Oklahoma wasn't overhyped, and even over on the offensive side of the ball, where we knew there would be some struggles, we knew that there would be some kind of, maybe a chemistry to be built, trying to gel together, trying to mesh together, trying to find what pieces work and what pieces don't. We knew that was going to happen a little bit. But the reason why even on the offensive side of the ball, the team as a whole, I don't think was overhyped one bit, because we understood that this team is going to be running through the defense. This team is not going to be ran through the offense anymore like it was in years past under certain head coaches. We have Brent Venables in and Zach Alley coming over to help out with that defense, taking over that coordinator role. This defense is just fine, and this defense is going to help the offense. Now, all that we need from the offense isn't necessarily to go score points. We don't need them to score 30 or 40 points. We need them to score 25. And honestly, I think that would be my average. If you can score 25 to 30 every game, you're going to win games with this defense. And I think you're going to be a very good team with this defense. So overall, I think Oklahoma was properly hyped. We are running through our defense exactly how we said they would. And that's exactly what we should have expected as Oklahoma fans. We're not going to replace Jackson Arnold. He is our quarterback going forward for this season, and he's going to improve. This offense is going to improve. Do we expect a national championship this season? No. Okay. Do we expect an SEC championship this season? No. And you know, we can set those standards. That's what we're chasing every season. But it's okay to understand that we are kind of in a little bit of a rebuild this season going into the SEC, our first season in the SEC. Hey Sooner fans, did you enjoy this video? Well, go ahead and hit that like button and go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you doing if you've made it this far and haven't already? You should be able to find that subscribe button over here. And then if you want to see full episodes, we've got those up here and clips right down here. So go check that out. But we thank you all so much for all the love, all the support. We'll catch you next time. Boomer.